I believe in family, so I think that we should have policies that push family. I think that feminism overall was a bad thing. I think that we should be. I think women are happier when we have, a family and kids over a career in the long run. Yeah. Sorry, I'm a little nervous.
It's okay. I understand.
Nervous.
So it's more like traditional. You want people to kind of follow a more traditional path.
Mealtime.
In terms of family and gender and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, and you just see the negative, outcomes a society has when, families fall apart, right? And it's especially hard on the children. Like you see, the kids are more likely to go to prison. They're more likely to drop out of school. They're more likely to, be in mental health institutions. So you just see all of the problems that come with, single mother homes. So I just think it's important that we push policies that push family.
So how do you push a policy that promotes family? Like in what way can you force a family to stay together?
Make divorce illegal. Oh my God, say it, Pearl.
Well, I think you first have to get rid of incentives that incentivize women to leave families.
Yep.
So
no alimony, no child support.
For example, child support, alimony. I'm not really a fan of those.
Listen, I'm going to be honest with you guys, okay? I also pre-watch the future. I watch the future as well. I do believe in astrology. I do believe in tree leaves, and I can read the future. I do. Even on live content, I pre-watch it. I don't know how I do it. I'm just...
Child support. So if there's a divorce, let's say
actually, I think we should ban divorce too. Yeah, I think that should be banned. Yes.
Okay.
How does he do it?
You have to acknowledge that, right?
No.
So banning divorce means that when you decide to get married, you are not allowed by the government to leave your significant other in any situation.
My third eye is open.
I just think that if you want to leave, you just shouldn't get married. So that's just my opinion.
How ingenious.
In the real world, that kind of simplistic.
And there's exceptions to this, but I would just say in general, for most cases, we could talk about exceptions, but the rule.
Well, the exceptions are the important part, because I've heard you say that a lot when you're talking about things. You say, you want to talk about exceptions, but the exceptions is the important part, because those are the people that are going to be affected. I mean, exceptions are going to be a large part of divorces, as you say. I mean, you're talking about 25% maybe or more, because if you're saying you're not allowed to get divorced, so we're talking about what if the relationship is physically abusive?
Yeah, I think if it's physically, this is the problem though. All right, if it's one-sided physically abusive, okay, fine, divorce. We can allow divorce for those exceptions, but I've even talked to people that work at abuse centers, and they say that the majority of abuse is mutual. So it's not just one side's hitting.
What? It's so easy. It is so easy to just say, yeah, in physically abusive relationships, people should split. Why would you even try to quantify or qualify or provide an exception? Well, in some relationships, people are beating the shit out of each other, right? It's just that's such an easy position to be yeah, just bite that bullet. Yeah, it's so stupid.
The other, it's mutual. So
surely that's not every time.
I think. Yeah, I know.
But it's not healthier either.
I just think that the goal should be to keep families together, and that the goal should be to work through it.
I think most people agree with that, right? Because I think we all can look at the stats and say family is important, right? Family is important. Nuclear families is important to the health of children growing up in general. I think we can all say that. But when you say something like divorce should be illegal, we got to kind of suss that out, because that's a pretty extreme claim. For example, in 2014, family violence was the cause of 25% of divorces. So I don't think it's fair to characterize that as some kind of
what if they were both being abusive?
Well, but you also have to look at, there's incentive structures in place where there's a lot of false accusations in family court. And a lot of people don't know this, that family court is actually it's not based off of evidence, it's based off of balance of probabilities. And there are incentive programs that you get, in the UK, you get a free lawyer if you accuse your husband of abuse. And it's less than 10% of cases are actually followed through with the police.
Okay, hold on. She doesn't know anything about anything that she's talking about. Sorry. When she says on the balance of probabilities, not on evidence, that doesn't make any sense. Generally speaking, from what I'm aware of, there might be more. Generally speaking, there's two ways you can prove something in court. It can either be on a preponderance of evidence, meaning over 50%, right? So in civil court, this is how we would go. You need an over 50%. That's what the case that Trump lost on rape. It was over 50%, okay? Or beyond a shadow of a doubt, which is 99%, okay? No reasonable person can have a doubt here about a particular thing. For family courts, it's based on a preponderance of evidence. It's based on that 50% 50%, that 51% standard. That doesn't mean no evidence. That doesn't mean somebody just makes a claim and it's believed. That's not how that works. Those probabilities, the balance of probabilities that she's talking about here, the probabilities come from evidence provided in court.
Sorry, I don't want to move on quite yet. I want to stick on the topic of not allowing people to divorce. So you're saying that you do want to allow people to divorce. Then you don't really believe that.
No, I would say ban divorce.
Okay, because you just said you would allow an exception in the case of abuse.
I said one-sided abuse exception, sure.
Okay, so how do you prove the one? So then you don't believe in forced divorce? Or ban divorce.
Fine. Ban divorce except for one-sided abuse.
Okay,
sure.
except for one-sided abuse. And is there going to be a system to kind of how do you prove that the woman or man?
There's no way you can enforce this.
You have to press charges in criminal court, not family court.
So only if your significant other is tried criminally are you...
You don't press... an individual doesn't bring criminal charges to somebody. It would be reported to police and then the DA would do it. She's doing a whole documentary on this. Why doesn't she know any part of the legal system works? She has no idea. She wants to abolish divorce, which is an incredibly radical position, but she doesn't have any idea how any part of the legal system works. I can't as an individual go and bring criminal charges to somebody. Like...
Allowed to leave the relationship. Tried and found guilty criminally.
Yes. Otherwise, just stick out of, which is fine if you don't, want to be with someone forever. But I just say stay out of marriage. Because when marriage is supposed to be, for better or for worse, in sickness and in health, and for richer or for poorer. It's not supposed to be, when I feel like leaving. And the majority of divorces nowadays, it's just, when the girl just feels like leaving.
That's not true.
So, Any evidence of that?
Well,
it's just not true.
I've talked to hundreds of women.
Oh, dude. I'm so glad that her channel is nowhere near as popular. People think her channel is so popular, and it's not. They gamed the shorts algorithm. She got a ton of subs on that. She gets very low. She gets less engagement than me on her long form content. People think her channel's more popular than it is. Don't be too depressed, okay? This channel will not be around for as long as people think it is. God, her takes are so unimaginably uninformed on everything she talks about.
That doesn't prove anything.
And even if you look at when no fault divorce was initiated in the 1970, I think it was initiated. I mean, one of the number one reasons was financial differences and irreconcilable.
I've spent all of 90 minutes researching divorce, okay? And I know the answers to all of these questions. She's supposedly doing a documentary. The reason why irreconcilable divorce is what's written on a lot of things is because when you go to court and you file for divorce, you have to give a reason. And that's just the default reason you give. Oh, irreconcilable differences. Oh, okay. That doesn't mean that there wasn't a good reason for divorce. It doesn't mean that maybe infidelity or some other thing wasn't involved or some huge disagreement. That's just the thing that you write on the paperwork to have the divorce. Irreconcilable differences. What?
Why do you know so much about divorce?
Because I'm getting ready for our case, Mel.
What the man?
But it's like, wait, she hasn't spent like even 2 seconds reading anything about this, and she wants to abolish divorce.
And reconcile.
Sorry, good talk. But yeah, I just think for the people that don't believe in real marriage, because what is marriage if you can get divorced over damn near anything? It's not marriage anymore. It's something else.
Well, I think the reason for that, historically, this emphasis on staying married, right? Or even before this no-fault divorce was an option, and it was more difficult for women to get divorced, or men, the abuse of power and the risk for abuse and for people to get stuck in a horrible relationship situation, not just for them, but their kids, right? I mean, obviously, having your kids watch their mother get beat up. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes it's going to believe...
Or the kids get watching their father get beat up. Like, it goes both ways.
She's such a pick-me.
I acknowledge that. It goes both ways. So both people have a right to, in my opinion, get divorced, because the alternative is one of the partners being stuck and
do you think that's the majority? Do you think that's the majority of cases?
A majority of cases of what? Divorce?
Of divorce.
25%. 25.
What?
It's 25% based on statistics.
No, but that's not what's in criminal court. It's like less than 10%. Actually.
In criminal court? What? I thought we're talking family law. What does she mean in criminal court?
Followed through in criminal court.
Well, regardless, 10% is enough, don't you think?
No, I said less than 10% of the abuse cases of the 25%. So that's like...
Less than 10% of the abuse cases of the 20... Is she talking about how many accusations wind up in convictions?
Journal of Family Violence in 2014 found that approximately 25% of divorces in the United States involve domestic violence.
Right, but again, that's because the woman says that she was, because they're incentive.
Okay, but you're just saying stuff. You're just saying stuff. You don't actually know that to be true.
No, I do.
How?
I do. In the UK, there's a law that you get a free lawyer if
how does that prove that women are lying about violence?
No, because I'm saying that you can't prove it unless they go to criminal court, because criminal court is based off of evidence, where family court is based off of a balance of probability. So it means it's more like...
The balance of probabilities is based on evidence. Ethan, can I call in? What do you think the balance of probabilities... Do you think if you go to civil court in the United States, it's not based off of beyond a shadow of a doubt. All you have to do is make an accusation, you automatically win the case? What does she think the balance of probabilities is? What does she think... What does she think the words means? The balance of probabilities. Where do the probabilities come from? Is it the probability that the judge just likes the way you look that day? What is she...
that they did it, then didn't do it, is not innocent until proven guilty.
Right, but they're not.
It